The Empire was the most feared power in the galaxy. For nearly 100 years, they had conquered star system after star system. Their massive warships could block out the light of suns. Their soldiers numbered in the billions. 17 different species had fallen under their rule, and not a single one had ever broken free. Emperor sat on his throne made of black metal, listening to reports from his scouts. They had found a new species on the edge of explored space, a small blue planet called Earth, circling an ordinary yellow star. "Tell me about these creatures," the Emperor said, his 4 eyes narrowing with interest. The scout commander bowed low. "They call themselves humans, Great One. They are weak, soft bodies, short lives. They have only colonized one other world in their system, a red planet they call Mars. Their ships are slow. Their weapons are primitive. They will fall within days." Smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Another species for our collection. Send the Third Fleet. Make an example of them so others will know the price of resistance." The Third Fleet was not the largest in the military, but it was more than enough. 200 warships jumped through space toward the human solar system. On their way, they encountered a small convoy of human vessels traveling between Earth and Mars. The convoy carried no weapons. It was a simple transport mission, moving families to the new Mars colony. 300 civilians were on board, including 42 children who were excited to see their new home. Fleet Commander did not hesitate. He ordered his ships to open fire. The convoy was destroyed in seconds. There were no survivors. Sent a message back to the Emperor. First contact successful. Human resistance eliminated. Proceeding to main target. He did not know that one of the convoy ships had sent a distress signal before it was destroyed. That signal reached Earth in 17 minutes. Admiral was eating breakfast when her communication device buzzed. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had served in the Terran Defense Fleet for 35 years, but she had never seen real combat. Humanity had been at peace for generations. She read the message. Then she read it again. Her hands began to shake, but not from fear, from anger. "Get me the Defense Council," she said quietly. "Now." Within 1 hour, every military and political leader on Earth knew what had happened. The reaction was not panic. It was cold, focused fury. They sent their surrender demand 6 hours later. The message appeared on every screen on Earth. Emperor himself spoke, his translated words echoing across the planet. "Humans of Earth, your convoy has been destroyed as punishment for existing in space that belongs to the Empire. You have one choice, complete surrender. Your people will serve us. Your resources will feed our war machine. Resist, and your entire species will be erased. You have 48 hours to respond." Admiral was chosen to send humanity's answer. She stood in the command center of Terran Defense Headquarters, surrounded by officers and politicians. Every word she spoke would be recorded in history. She opened the channel and began speaking. "This message is for Emperor and the commanders of the Empire. I am Admiral of the Terran Defense Fleet. I speak for all of humanity." She paused, letting her words carry weight. "You have attacked a convoy carrying 300 of our civilians. 42 of them were children. They had no weapons. They posed no threat. You murdered them without warning, without reason, without mercy." Her voice grew harder. "We are giving you 72 hours to retreat beyond the Orion Arm. Remove every ship, every soldier, every probe from our region of space. After that deadline passes, we will come for you. We will not stop until those responsible for this attack face justice." She leaned forward, her eyes burning into the camera. "This is not a negotiation. This is not a threat. This is a courtesy that you do not deserve. We are giving you a chance to run. I suggest you take it. You will not receive another warning." The channel closed. The message raced across space toward the fleet. When Commander received it, he laughed so hard that tears streamed down his face. His officers joined him. The idea that these primitive creatures would threaten the mighty empire was the funniest thing they had ever heard. "Send a reply," said, still chuckling. "Tell them we will be at there in 3 days. Tell them to prepare their chains." Admiral received this response exactly as she had expected. She turned to her aide, a young officer named Lieutenant. "Begin Protocol Chimera," she said. "Wake the sleepers. Activate the silent fleet. It's time to show the galaxy who we really are." Nodded and began entering codes into his console. Across the planet, alerts went out to hidden facilities that most humans did not know existed. For 50 years, Earth had prepared for this day. They had watched the conquer their way across the galaxy. They had studied their tactics, their technology, their weaknesses. They had built ships in secret, trained soldiers in hidden bases, developed weapons that existed in no database. The thought they were attacking a primitive species that had barely left its. They were wrong. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, a massive facility began to power up. Lights that had been dark for decades flickered to life. Ships that had never flown began their startup sequences. In underground bunkers on every continent, soldiers opened sealed orders and began to move. On the dark side of the moon, a hidden shipyard released its moorings. 300 vessels, painted black to match the void of space, silently drifted into formation. Admiral watched the status reports flood her screen. Green lights appeared one after another as humanity's true military strength revealed itself. "How long until we're ready?" she asked. 48 hours, replied. "We'll be waiting for them." Nodded. She thought about the children on that convoy. She thought about their parents who had been so excited to start new lives on Mars. She thought about the laughing as they destroyed innocent lives. "Good," she said. "Let them come. Let them see what happens when you hurt our people." The Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked first. They had been warned to run. They had chosen not to listen. They would learn. The Third Fleet jumped into the human solar system with absolute confidence. Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching 800 warships emerge from faster-than-light travel around him. The sight filled him with pride. "Scan for enemy positions," he ordered. "Find their pathetic defense stations and destroy them." His officers worked their consoles. Minutes passed, then more minutes. "Commander," one of them said, confusion in his voice, "we are detecting very little military activity. A few stations near the fourth planet, some satellites around Earth, nothing that could challenge our fleet." Smiled. "They are hiding, cowering as they should be. Move the fleet into attack formation. We will crush their stations first, then proceed to the 800 warships spread out across the solar system, their weapons charging, their crews eager for easy conquest. Far away, hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, General watched the enemy through long-range sensors. He was an older man with a face and steady hands. He had trained his entire life for a battle he hoped would never come. Now it had arrived. "They've taken the bait," reported Commander, his tactical officer. She was young but brilliant, hand-picked from thousands of candidates. "They're heading for the decoy stations." "Patience," said. "Let them spread out more. The more scattered they are, the harder they'll fall." The hidden carrier, unyielding, drifted silently among the asteroids. It was just one of many human vessels concealed throughout the system. Ships painted black, running without power, invisible to enemy sensors. They had been waiting here for weeks. On the bridge of his flagship, grew impatient. The decoy stations were destroyed easily, but there was no satisfaction in it, no real fight. "Where is their fleet?" he demanded. "Where are their warriors?" "Unknown, Commander. Perhaps they have none." Snorted. "Cowards, all of them. Send word to the Emperor that this conquest will be complete within." An alarm screamed across the bridge. "Contact," an officer shouted. "Multiple contacts emerging from the asteroid belt, 200, 300 vessels. Spun to look at his display. Red dots were appearing everywhere, surrounding his fleet from multiple directions. Ships that had not been there moments ago now filled the space around them. "Impossible," he whispered. "Where did they come from?" In the human command ship, Admiral smiled grimly. She was a fierce woman with short black hair and eyes that showed no fear. She commanded the assault wing, the first wave of humanity's response. "All wings, this is Admiral. Remember why we're here. Remember the convoy. Remember the children. These murderers will learn what happens when they attack our people. All ships engage." The human fleet attacked with terrible precision. Their ships were smaller than the vessels but far faster. They moved in perfect coordination, each pilot knowing exactly where to be and when. The shields, considered the strongest in the galaxy, flickered and died under human weapons. These were not the primitive armaments the Empire had expected. These were weapons designed specifically to kill ships, developed over decades of secret research. Watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart, 60 ships destroyed in the first 3 minutes, then 80, then 100. "Return fire," he screamed. "Destroy them." But the human ships were too fast, too agile. They danced between weapons, striking again and again. Every time the thought they had a target, the humans were already gone. On the carrier unyielding, General directed the battle with calm efficiency. Commander reported enemy positions, and he adjusted their strategy moment by moment. "Enemy flagship is trying to organize a counterattack," said. "They're pulling ships into a defensive formation." "Send the second wave," ordered. "Hit them from below while they're focusing forward." Another 100 human ships emerged from hiding, attacking from an unexpected angle. The defensive formation collapsed into chaos. Admiral led her wing directly at the enemy flagship. Her ship, the Righteous Fury, cut through enemy fighters like a knife through water. "All batteries target the flagship's engines," she commanded. "I want alive. He has questions to answer." Human weapons slammed into the flagship. Its shields failed. Its engines exploded. The massive ship began to drift, powerless and broken. Stood on his ruined bridge, surrounded by dead officers and sparking consoles. Through the viewport, he could see his fleet dying. Ships that had conquered worlds were now floating wreckage. "This cannot be happening," he said to no one. "They were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to be weak." A human voice crackled over his communication system. It was Admiral speaking from Earth. "Commander, your fleet is destroyed. Your flagship is disabled. You have one chance to surrender and face justice for what you did to our convoy. If you choose to continue fighting, you will die here. Decide now." His 4 eyes looked around at the destruction. He thought about the Empire, about his career, about his pride. Then he thought about survival. "I surrender," he said, his voice breaking. "I surrender." When the battle ended, only 200 ships remained functional. They fled toward the edge of the solar system, their faster-than-light drives pushing them as fast as possible. But the humans had planned for this too. They had spent 50 years mapping every jump point in their system. Every escape route had ships waiting. The fleeing found themselves ambushed again and again. By the time they finally escaped human space, barely 100 ships remained from the original 800. These survivors carried a message back to the Empire, not a message of words but of fear. They told stories of human ships appearing from nowhere, of weapons that cut through shields like they were nothing, of pilots who fought without hesitation, without mercy, without fear. Admiral addressed her fleet after the battle. Her words were broadcast to every ship, every station, every colony. "Today we defended our home. Today we showed the galaxy that humanity will not be conquered. But this is not over. The Empire still exists. The ones who ordered the attack on our convoy still live. We gave them a chance to run. They did not run far enough." She paused, letting her words sink in. We will not wait for them to attack again. We will take the fight to them. We will show every species in the galaxy that attacking humanity is the last mistake anyone will ever make. Across the fleet, 3 million soldiers cheered. They had won the first battle. The war was just beginning. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the Empire was learning a lesson it would never forget. Do not wake the humans. The High Council had never known fear. For generations, they had been the hunters, never the hunted. They had crushed entire civilizations and erased species from existence. No one had ever dared to challenge them. Until now. Emperor sat on his throne, listening to the survivors of the Third Fleet describe what had happened. With each word, his fury grew hotter. You lost 700 ships to primitives, he roared. 700 ships to a species that had never even left their own star system. Admiral, the commander of the Imperial Navy, stepped forward. Great One, there has been a mistake in our intelligence. The humans were hiding their true strength. But it does not matter. We have thousands of ships. They have hundreds. We will return with overwhelming force And what? Interrupted. Lose another fleet, become a joke to the entire galaxy. The council chamber fell silent. Every advisor, every general, every politician held their breath. Stood from his throne, his massive form casting a shadow across the room. No more mistakes. Send the Grand Fleet, every ship we have. I want that planet burned to ashes. I want every human dead. I want their memory erased from the galaxy. But while they were planning their revenge, the humans were already moving. Captain stood on the bridge of the Ghost of Sol, the most advanced stealth ship ever built by human hands. It was painted black, its hull designed to absorb sensor scans, its engines modified to produce almost no heat signature. In the darkness of space, it was invisible. She was not a tall woman, but her presence filled the bridge. Her crew of 50 trusted her completely. They had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might never return. Commander Minyu, what is our status? She asked. Minyu was her intelligence officer, a quiet man with a brilliant mind. He worked at his console, processing data from dozens of hidden sensors. We have successfully entered space without detection. We are currently 3 light years from there. Nodded, and the listening devices. Operational. We are now receiving all military communications in real time. Their encryption is laughable. They have never needed to update it because no one has ever tried to intercept their signals. Lieutenant, the weapons officer, shook her head in disbelief. They really thought they were untouchable, didn't they? They were untouchable, said, until they touched us. The Ghost of Sol was not alone. 12 stealth ships had slipped into territory in the weeks following the first battle. Their mission was simple but dangerous. Learn everything about the enemy and prepare the way for what was coming. Minyu's work revealed the full picture of the Empire. They controlled 17 star systems. Their fleet numbered over 5,000 ships. Their army counted 10 billion soldiers. On paper, they should have been impossible to defeat. But Minyu also found weaknesses. They had not fought a real war in 50 years. Their tactics were old. Their technology had not been upgraded because no one had ever challenged it. Their supply lines stretched across vast distances with minimal protection. And most importantly, their conquered subjects hated them. Sent this intelligence back to Earth using quantum communication, a technology they did not even know existed. Admiral and General received every detail and began planning. But the stealth ships did more than watch. They acted. On a remote outpost, a supply depot containing enough fuel to power a fleet for months suddenly exploded. The cause was listed as equipment failure. A communications relay station went offline without warning, cutting off an entire sector from the military network. Engineers found nothing wrong but could not restore the connection. A high-ranking admiral received a message on his personal device. It contained his home address, the names of his children and the location of their schools. The message ended with 3 words: "We are watching." Fear began to spread through the military. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. They struck without warning and vanished without trace. Captain personally led the most daring mission. The Ghost of Soul approached a prison planet where they kept political prisoners from their conquered worlds. Thousands of beings from dozens of species were held there in terrible conditions. "This is a high-risk operation," told her crew. "We are going to free those prisoners and give them a choice. They can join us, or we will take them to safety. Either way, they will know that their grip is weakening." The prison had minimal defenses. They never expected anyone to attack this deep in their territory. Steam disabled the guards with precision, opened the cells, and offered the prisoners something they had given up hope of ever having again: freedom. A young alien named, imprisoned for speaking against the Empire, looked at the human soldiers with disbelief. "Why are you doing this? You could have stayed safe in your own space." Met his eyes. "Because they killed our people, innocent people, children, and when we looked at your prison records, we saw that they have been doing the same thing to others for 100 years. We cannot undo what was done to us, but we can stop them from doing it again." And over 3,000 other prisoners joined the human cause that day. They became spies, translators, and eventually soldiers. They knew the Empire from the inside, and they were eager to help tear it down. The citizens began to whisper. The news broadcast said everything was under control, but everyone knew someone who had heard something. Stories of ghost ships, stories of explosions and sabotage, stories of prisoners escaping and vanishing into the stars. For the first time in a century, the people felt uncertain. Emperor ordered the Grand Fleet to assemble. Over 4,000 ships gathered above preparing to crush the humans once and for all. But Admiral was ready. She had seen the fleet assembling through Minu's intelligence network. She knew exactly when they would launch, what route they would take, and what tactics they would use. "They're coming," she announced to the Defense Council, "and they're bringing everything they have." General studied the reports. 4,000 ships against our 1,500. Those are bad odds. Smiled. "Those are their odds, not ours. We know every move they will make before they make it. We have weapons they have never seen, and we have something they will never understand." "What's that?" "Motivation. They fight for conquest, for pride, for their emperor." Her eyes hardened. "We fight for the 42 children who will never grow up. We fight so that no one ever attacks our people again. That is a fire that will never go out." The Grand Fleet launched, jumping toward human space with enough firepower to destroy 100 worlds. They thought they were going to end the war. They were right, just not the way they expected. The Grand Fleet never reached human space. Admiral had studied the enemy for months. She knew their routes, their tactics, their weaknesses, and she knew that waiting for them to arrive would give them the advantage of choosing where to fight. So she chose first. The human fleet met thee in open space, far from any star system. It was a place where reinforcements could not easily arrive, where supply lines would be stretched thin, where the battle would be decided by skill and will alone. Fleet Admiral commanded the human forces from her flagship, Humanity's Answer. She was the youngest fleet admiral in human history, promoted after the first battle for her exceptional tactical mind. Now she led 1,500 ships against over 4,000. "All vessels, this is Admiral," she broadcast to her fleet. "Today we face the full might of the Empire. They believe their numbers will crush us. They believe their power is absolute. They are wrong." She paused, letting her words settle into the hearts of her crews. "Remember why we are here. Not for glory, not for conquest. We are here because 1 year ago, the murdered 300 of our people, including 42 children. We are here because they laughed when we told them to run. We are here to teach the galaxy that humanity protects its own." Across 1,500 ships, 3 million soldiers prepared for the fight of their lives. They came with overwhelming confidence. Their grand fleet was the largest military force ever assembled by their empire. Admiral himself commanded from his massive flagship, eager to prove that the first battle was a fluke. "Destroy them all," he ordered. "Leave nothing but dust." But the humans did not fight the way they expected. Instead of meeting the enemy in a single massive clash, the human fleet split into dozens of smaller groups. They attacked from multiple angles, striking and retreating, never staying in one place long enough to be surrounded. Captain led one such strike group. His squadron of 20 ships dove into the formation, targeting their communication vessels first. "Take out their command links," he ordered. "Make them blind and deaf." His ships obeyed with deadly precision. Communication vessels exploded one after another, cutting off coordination between different parts of their fleet. Without communication, the Grand Fleet became 4,000 individual ships instead of one unified force. Groups began making their own decisions, sometimes working against each other. Admiral exploited every gap. Where they were weak, she concentrated her forces. Where they were strong, she pulled back and let them waste energy chasing shadows. "Their flagship is moving to the center of their formation," reported her tactical officer. "Is trying to restore order." Studied the display. "Then we give him something else to worry about," signaled the Ghost Squadron. Captain and her stealth ships had been waiting for this moment. They emerged from the darkness behind the lines, attacking supply vessels and fuel carriers. Without these support ships, the Grand Fleet would soon run out of power. Screamed orders, trying to protect his supplies while also fighting the main human fleet. But there were not enough ships to do both. Every time he moved forces to one crisis, another appeared somewhere else. Hours passed, the lost ship after ship. Their confidence turned to confusion, then to fear. On the bridge of humanity's answer made her final move. "All ships concentrate on the flagship. It's time to end this." 300 human vessels converged on its position. They tried to protect their admiral, but they were too scattered, too tired, too broken. The flagship's shields fell under the combined assault. Its engines failed. Its weapons went silent. "Opened a channel. Admiral, your fleet is destroyed. Your supplies are gone. You can surrender and live, or you can die here. Choose." Looked at his ruined bridge, at his dying crew, at the human ships surrounding him like wolves around wounded prey. He thought about the Empire's pride, about his own honor. Then he thought about survival. "I surrender," he said. The battle was over. Of the 4,000 ships in the Grand Fleet, barely 800 escaped. The rest were destroyed or captured. The Empire had lost the core of its military in a single day. But Admiral was not finished. "Set course for the," she ordered. "We end this now." The human fleet jumped through space, arriving above the capital world before the news of their victory had even reached it. The planetary defenses, once considered invincible, were designed to stop a few hundred ships. 1,500 human vessels overwhelmed them in hours. Ground Commander led the surface operations. His soldiers landed with clear orders, military targets only. No civilians would be harmed unless they took up weapons. The military bases fell one by one. Their weapons factories crumbled. Their government buildings were surrounded. But something remarkable happened. Human soldiers went out of their way to protect civilian areas. They delivered medical supplies to hospitals. They set up food distribution for neighborhoods cut off by the fighting. A mother watched human soldiers give water to her children. She could not understand why the enemy was showing kindness. Sergeant noticed her confusion. "We are not here to conquer you," she explained through a translator. "We are here to stop your leaders from hurting anyone else. You are not our enemy. Your government is." The Imperial Palace was the last target. Led his team inside personally. walking through halls of ancient glory that had seen 100 conquests. Emperor waited on his throne. He was old now, his 4 eyes tired, his massive body slumped in defeat. "You have won," he said as approached. "Kill me and take my empire." Shook his head. "I'm not here to kill you. Admiral will speak with you. She will explain what happens next." When arrived, she carried a single document in her hands. The emperor looked at it with suspicion. "What is this? Your terms of surrender, your demands for tribute." Placed the document before him. "It is a treaty, read it." Read, with each line his confusion grew. The humans were not demanding territory. They were not enslaving his people. They were not taking his resources. Instead, they were demanding something far more radical. The military would be disbanded. Every conquered world would be freed. Reparations would be paid to every species the empire had harmed. The emperor would stand trial for the attack on the human convoy. And then the humans would leave. "I do not understand," said. "You have won everything. You could take my throne. You could rule the galaxy. Why do you walk away?" Looked at him with cold eyes. "Because we are not you. We do not want your empire. We never did. We wanted justice for our dead. We wanted to ensure you could never threaten humanity again. We wanted to free the species you had enslaved." She leaned closer. "But understand this, Emperor. If they ever threaten us again, we will not stop at your. We will not leave survivors. We will erase your species from history so completely that no one will remember you ever existed. This mercy is a gift you did not deserve. Do not waste it." Signed the treaty with shaking hands. The empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for a century, fell in a single year. And the humans, who could have taken everything, simply went home. 10 years had passed since the war ended. The galaxy had changed more in that decade than in the previous 1,000 years. The empire was gone. In its place, 17 free worlds struggled to rebuild. Species that had been enslaved for generations now governed themselves for the first time. It was difficult. There were arguments and conflicts and growing pains, but they were free, and freedom was worth the struggle. Ambassador stood at the podium of the newly formed Galactic Council. 43 species were represented in the chamber, from ancient civilizations that had survived the conquest to young spacefaring races just beginning to explore the stars. She was an older woman now, her black hair streaked with gray. She had been a junior diplomat when the war began. Now she spoke for all of humanity. "Friends of the Council," she began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. 10 years ago, my species was unknown to most of you. We were a small civilization on a small planet, just beginning to reach beyond our solar system. We wanted nothing but peace." She paused, her eyes moving across the assembled representatives. "They did not give us peace. They attacked our people without warning. They murdered our civilians, including children. When we asked them to leave our space, they laughed at us." The chamber was silent. Everyone knew this history, but hearing it from a human carried special weight. "We did not seek this war. We did not want to be warriors. But when we had no choice, we fought with everything we had. Not for conquest, not for glory. We fought to protect our people and to ensure that what happened to us would never happen again." She looked toward the section where the representative sat. He was a young diplomat, born after the war, trying to rebuild his people's reputation. Today, they live in peace. Their people are not enslaved. Their children are not punished for the sins of their grandparents. This is the humanity way. We do not believe in eternal vengeance. We believe in justice and then in healing. Turned back to the full council. "What we offer the galaxy is simple. Peace with those who want peace. Trade with those who want trade. Cooperation with those who want to build a better future. We will not force ourselves on anyone. We will not conquer. We will not rule." She let those words hang in the air. "But we will also not be victims. If anyone threatens humanity, if anyone attacks our people, they will find that the fire we showed the still burns. We hope we will never need to fight again. But if we must, we will." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species applauded, others whispered among themselves. The representative sat very still, remembering stories his grandmother had told him about human ships appearing from nowhere. After the session ended, met with representatives from a dozen worlds. Some wanted trade agreements, others wanted military alliances. A few simply wanted to understand the strange species that had toppled an empire and then walked away. The alien who had been freed from the prison so many years ago now served as representative of the Liberation Coalition. He embraced when they met. "My people are thriving," he told her. "For the first time in 3 generations, our children grow up without fear. We owe that to you." Shook her head. "You owe it to yourselves. We opened the door, you walked through it." Far from the political chambers of the Galactic Council, life continued in quieter ways. Captain had retired from the military 5 years after the war. He had seen enough fighting to last several lifetimes. Now he lived in a small house near the mountains, enjoying the peace he had helped to create. His granddaughter visited every weekend. She was 7 years old, full of energy and curiosity, fascinated by the stars her grandfather had traveled. "Tell me another story about the war, Grandpa," she demanded, sitting on his lap in the garden. Smiled sadly. "The war was not a good time, little one. We lost many friends. But you won, you saved everyone." He thought about that, about the convoy that had started everything, about the battles and the fear and the long journey about the looks on the faces of prisoners when they were freed. "We did what we had to do," he said finally. "But the best thing about winning the war is that you will never have to fight one." Pulled out a toy spaceship, a model of the exploration vessels that were now venturing far beyond human space. "When I grow up, I'm going to explore the whole galaxy. I'm going to find new planets and make friends with aliens." Felt tears in his eyes. This was why they had fought, not for victory or revenge, but for this, for children who dreamed of exploration instead of war. "The galaxy is waiting for you," he told her, "and it's safer now than it's ever been." Across the known universe, that safety was becoming real. Human diplomats worked on dozens of worlds, helping former subjects establish governments and economies. Human engineers shared technology freely, asking nothing in return except friendship. And in the dark corners of the galaxy, where other empires still plotted conquest, leaders received detailed reports about what had happened to They read about the hidden fleets, the impossible tactics, the weapons that cut through shields like water. They saw images of the Grand Fleet reduced to floating debris. Most of them quietly adjusted their expansion plans to move away from human territory. One aggressive species, the Collective, ignored the warnings. Their council argued that the humans had been lucky, that they were weak, that no species could truly be that dangerous. They sent a probe into human space to test the defenses. The probe was destroyed within 3 minutes of crossing the border. Along with its wreckage, they received a message. "This is Admiral Menu of the Terran Defense Fleet. Your probe has been destroyed for entering human territory without permission. We assume this was a misunderstanding. Please confirm that you have no hostile intentions, and we will consider the matter closed. If we detect any further unauthorized vessels in our space, we will not assume it is a misunderstanding. We will assume it is an act of war, and we will respond accordingly." The Collective sent an immediate apology and a request for diplomatic relations. Their aggressive expansion plans were quietly buried. On Earth, the memorial for the convoy victims stood in a garden of peace. 300 names were carved in stone, including 42 in a special section for the children. Families came every year on the anniversary to remember those who were lost. Admiral, now very old, visited every year without fail. She would sit before the names and speak to them quietly, telling them what had been done in their memory. "The galaxy remembers," she would say. "They remember that attacking innocent people has consequences. They remember that humanity protects its own. Your deaths were not in vain. Because of what happened after, millions of lives have been saved." She would stay until sunset, then return home to rest. In the great archives of the Galactic Council, historians documented the rise and fall of empires. The empire was now a chapter in a history book, a warning about the dangers of arrogance and cruelty. And at the end of that chapter, they always included the same note. The humans did not seek war. They asked only to be left in peace. When they attacked their convoy, the humans sent a message warning them to retreat. They ignored this warning. What followed was the fastest and most complete military defeat in recorded galactic history. The lesson is simple: do not attack the humans. They will warn you once. They will not warn you twice. In schools across 100 worlds, children learned this lesson. In military academies, officers studied human tactics and wondered how a small species had defeated such overwhelming odds. And in quiet homes across the galaxy, parents told their children a new saying that had spread from species to species, world to world, until everyone knew it. "Let sleeping humans lie." The galaxy was at peace, not because humanity ruled it, but because humanity had shown what happens when peace is broken. And in that peace, in that safety, in that new era of cooperation and exploration, the 42 children of the convoy were finally, truly honored. Their deaths had changed the galaxy forever. Their memory would never be forgotten. The end.